Welcome everyone to another week of footy tipping, and today I'm going to be going through my round 12 AFL tips and predictions, as well as going through which tips I got correct as well as which tips I got incorrect in the round 11. Now if you guys do go on to enjoy today's video, could you please show me that by liking the video as well as subscribing to the channel if you guys are new. Enough wasting your time, let's get straight into it. Now before we do get into things, I just want to quickly acknowledge the fact that I do have a tipping comp for the 2025 AFL season over on the ESPN app. The link to join will be in the description below. If you do finish first place in the tipping comp, you'll receive a cash prize of $100. Second place is $30 and third place is $15. We are currently on 94 members, and let's just see how many more weeks it will take us to reach 100. Hopefully we can get that this week. Currently in third place we have Pranilk 17, second is DeConti 8, and in first place yet again we have Ben Rafferty with a massive 74 points on the app. Now I'm not going too bad myself, as last week I did score a 7 out of 9, which I think is a pretty solid round of tipping. Now let me quickly go through the two games that I got incorrect off the rounds. I tipped the Hawks to get the upper hand against the Brisbane Lions. I thought at home maybe they could get up. Big round of footy, a lot of games in Melbourne, but Brisbane obviously got the job done, which was pretty huge by them. And the other game, a huge upset in Melbourne beating Sydney. Now, although the odds were pretty close, I thought the Swans were overall the better side. That's why I did back them in to win the game. But in the end, I believe Melbourne got the upper hand by 40 points in Chris Petrarca's 200th game. So maybe his 200th game maybe persuaded them to get up in this one game. But they've been pretty good the last few weeks, Melbourne. I wouldn't be shocked if they pull a bit of a 2024 Hawthorn and sneak their way into the 8 in this second half of the season. But now let's get into the part that you guys clicked on this video for, to see who I am tipping for this week of footy. To start off the round at the Gabba at 7:30 p.m. on the Thursday, with the Brisbane Lions taking on the Essendon Bombers. Surely this is a no-brainer. The Brisbane Lions, arguably one of the best sides in the league at the moment. Obviously the Pies do sit at first place, but Brisbane are not too far behind them. They've got such a good midfield, obviously both the Ashcroft brothers, Lachie Neale, two-time Brownlow medalist. Logan Morris, I feel like has had a huge year, as well as Eric Hipwood up forward. Callum Archie had a pretty good game last week. Charlie Cameron kicked 3 goals. He's always a really good small forward for the Brisbane Lions. Obviously Caddy is some up-and-coming talent that they're going to be wanting to keep a close eye on over the next few years. Isaac Kako, on the other hand, he's an alright player. He's got a pretty good kick. It's just the fact that he can't get too many possessions, and it just seems like he doesn't really do too much. But I guess you can't expect too much from a first-year player. Clark, though, made his debut for the Bombers last week on Dreamtime, where he kicked 3 goals, which was absolutely huge. Zach Merritt, a potential Brownlow medal contender. That'll be pretty good for them, but I think Brisbane are overall the better side. They're going to go into this game very heavy favourites, and they're definitely not going to want to lose this one. So I'm going to tip the Lions to get up, and I'm going to tip them to win by a pretty high margin. Let's go 42 points. Next up on the Friday at 7:40 p.m. at the MCG, the only game that's going to be played in Victoria this week, as they had 7 games in Victoria last week. It's going to be the Collingwood Magpies taking on the Hawthorn Hawks. This will arguably be one of the best games of the round. Obviously last year, when the Pies were in a bit of a slump and Hawthorn were on their rise, they did unfortunately defeat my boys the Pies by 60 points, and I feel like it could be very similar this year, but I think I'm pretty confident in my side to the point where I am going to back them this week. Let me give a bit more reasoning on why that is. Obviously last week against North Melbourne, that should have just been an easy win regardless, but up until 3/4 time it looked like North were well and truly still in the game and very capable of winning it. But then in the 4th quarter, the Pies absolutely kicked away, and it seems like the 4th quarter tend to be the Pies' poor quarter until like maybe the final 5 minutes, and that's when they lock in, especially if it's a close game. And just the fact that it was a close game at 3/4 time and the Pies still went on to win the game by 40 plus is just huge. And they've just had a really good season overall, obviously currently sitting at first on the ladder, only losing 2 games this season. One of them was against the Giants in opening rounds, and the other one was against the Cats, which was an absolute thriller. And obviously I don't want to get into a bit of controversy here, but Pies probably should have won that game. But yeah, that was weeks ago, okay? I'm over it. It doesn't matter. Jamie Elliott, what an absolute superstar he is. He's top 5 in the Coleman currently, and I think he's still a sneaky contender for the medal himself, but he's going to have a pretty big season. He's going to have like Jesse Hogan, Jeremy Cameron type performances nearly every single week. But he's already had multiple games this year where he's kicked 5 goals plus. Bobby Hill is starting to find a bit more form. Obviously missed out on last week's game, unfortunately, due to personal reasons. Yeah, the Hawks, they do have a really strong forward line. Well, you could say the Pies back line is pretty lacking, but I do still think the Pies are going to get up in this week's game. I'm going to go Pies by 12. Kick off the Saturday with the Gold Coast Suns taking on the Fremantle Dockers. This will be at 1:20 p.m. at People's First Stadium. Suns will go into this game favourites, and fair enough considering how good they've been this season. 3rd on the ladder, taking on 9th on the ladder. Obviously 9th is Fremantle, 3rd is the Suns. Huge season, probably the best form the Suns have ever been in their history. It's almost a lock that they're going to play finals for the first time this year, which is absolutely huge. Hopefully they play that game in Melbourne, because I wouldn't mind attending that. Just as long as they don't burst the Pies, because I'd be a bit worried if they did. Ben King, he's an absolutely huge forward. He has to be their best forward, and not far behind him is Ben Long, who's had an absolutely outstanding season this year, may I say. Although Tracy, who looks like he could take home the Coleman early in the year, which he's still a contender, but he's fallen off the last few weeks, but he's still averaging 2 goals a game, I believe, so that's still pretty big, and he's still kicked a bunch of goals this season as well. Noah Anderson, one of the best midfielders in the comp, averaging 30 disposals a game, but Caleb Strong and Brayshaw aren't too far behind them, averaging 28 and 27. Noble, he's been a huge recruit for the Gold Coast Suns. A few weeks ago, he racked up 1,000 metres gained in one singular AFL match. Jared Witch is easily a top 5 ruckman in the competition, averaging 41 hitouts every single game. This game could really go either way, but I think with the Suns playing at home, it's going to be really, really good for them. And although they did defeat the St Kilda Saints last week, they arguably should have won by more, but only got up by 19 points, so it's a little bit too hard to judge how they're going to go this week, but I do think they will get up at home. Let's go Suns by 20. Next up at NG Stadium at 4:15 p.m, we have the GWS Giants taking on the Richmond Tigers. No brainer, Giants, one of the best teams of the comp, which I say that, but they're only just sneaking their way into the top 8, currently sitting in 8th, while Richmond, they're likely to finish in the bottom 4 despite them pulling off a few sneaky upsets here and there. Giants are huge favourites going into this one, fair enough as well. They've got a huge midfield, their midfield's absolutely outstanding. They've got one of the best forward lines of the comp with Toby Green, Jesse Hogan, Jake Stringer, who has started to find a bit of form the last few weeks. Their defence is looking pretty good as well, while Richmond are lacking skill in all areas, let's face it. So I'm going to back the Giants to get up in this one. Let's go an absolute smashing, especially at home. Giants by 50. And to conclude the Saturday, we have the Sydney Swans taking on the Adelaide Crows at 7:35 p.m. This game will obviously take place at the SCG. Two very similar sides, I would say. I feel like overall the Adelaide Crows are the better side, but at the SCG, you really never know how this could go. Obviously the Swans could get up anyway. Odds are very close for this one already, and I can't imagine how close they will be on the day of the game. Although it is looking a bit scary for the Sydney Swans after last week's game where they got absolutely pumped by the Melbourne Demons. They lost the game by 53 points, and although Melbourne are starting to pick up a bit more form, I feel like as a side that finished first on the ladder last year, played in a grand final, there's got to be some good skills somewhere in there. And it's not even like they've got too many injuries. Yeah, they have got a few pretty key injuries. Obviously, Errol Goulden's the main one. But I feel like one huge player isn't going to make a massive difference in your team. And Joshua Shelley last week kicked 5 goals. That was absolutely massive. Thilthorpe, Fogarty and Rankin, they're all very, very scary to go up against. So Sydney Swans definitely going to have to keep an eye on them 3. And I just don't really believe that the Sydney Swans are going to be able to hold up enough this week. And I'm going to back the Adelaide Crows to get the job done. I think it could be relatively close, one of the closest games of the round, and I'm going to tip it to be the closest game of the round. I'm going to go Adelaide Crows to get up in this game by 9 points. Now moving on to the Sunday games, we have the Melbourne Demons taking on the St Kilda Saints. This will be at TIO Stadium at 3:20 p.m. Melbourne, outstanding form they've been in the last few weeks. I actually cannot believe it. It almost seems like they're pulling off a bit of a 2024 Hawthorn. Obviously, we all know last year that Hawthorn were arguably contenders to win the Wooden Spoon and then went all the way to make finals in the second half of the year, which was absolutely massive. And it seems like Melbourne are doing the same. Obviously started the season very, very poorly, and now they're starting to find a bit of form. I mean, they're not sitting too far out the 8 anymore, only 11th on the ladder, and St Kilda do currently sit at 14th. In Alice Springs though, huge for Melbourne. Maybe if it was in Victoria, if it was on Marvel Stadium, MCG, maybe, just maybe I would go the upset for the St Kilda Saints, but in Alice Springs, Melbourne play absolutely outstanding up there. As for the Saints, can't say the same about them. So I'm going to tip Melbourne to get the job done here. Oh, do we tip it to be a close one? I feel like they could get up by a bit here. I'm going to go Melbourne to win the game by 29. And the final game of the round to conclude this round of football at 7:20 p.m. at Optus Stadium, we have the West Coast Eagles taking on the beloved Geelong Cats. 18 taking on 5th place. West Coast easily one of the worst teams in the league. A lot of people even tipped them earlier in the year to not even win a single game this season. Obviously they got that one upset win against St Kilda. Geelong, they have one of the best midfields, one of the best forward lines, one of the best back lines. As for West Coast, the only positive I can say for them is probably their forward line. They've got a pretty solid forward line, but with their mids not really being able to get it in there and their defense not really being able to stop the other team's goals, it's a bit difficult for them. But I think it's pretty obvious where I'm going with this tip. I'm going to tip the Geelong Cats to get up Geelong by 47. And that will wrap up this round of tipping. I hope you all did enjoy, and if you guys did, could you please show me that by liking the video as well as subscribing to the channel if you guys are new. Anyway, I'll see you all in the next one.